Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Cinema A to B. And today we're going to be talking about James Cameron's True Lies. Ben, let's talk about this, I believe, third outing of Schwarzenegger and Cameron.
Yes, it is. I'm gonna just get it going with a hot take, a couple hot takes.
Oh, okay.
So I think this is the last great Schwarzenegger picture is 1994 True Lies. I went back through the film catalog. He makes some decent stuff after this, but nothing rises to this level. This is still, I think, one of the best action comedies I think I've ever seen. It took more of an adult viewing, I think, for me to get more of the humor than when I was a young man had seen this initially. So, because when you're younger and you watch a Schwarzenegger picture, unless he's doing the real schmaltzy one-liners, really you're just watching him to kill a lot of people, which he does do. I don't know what the body count in this feels pretty high. It's certainly higher than Terminator 2. I don't think it reaches the, obviously T2's got, Arnold doesn't kill anybody in that film. And he doesn't kill as many as he does in Commando in this, but I was pleasantly re-surprised how many people he offs. And then surprisingly in that scene, how many terrorists did Jamie Lee Curtis manages to off by literally dropping the Uzi down the stairs. But no, the movie is a beautiful blend of action and comedy. The movie opens with this what if of what if Arnold Schwarzenegger were to front a James Bond film? And it's exactly what you get. They're in Switzerland on the lake in the winter. The first 20 minutes feels as like a really, really good Bond film, which makes me think I think the Broccoli family missed the boat not having James Cameron helm a Bond film. And I don't know if he was ever asked or if, he turned it down or whatever, but some hot takes there but I think this is the last great Arnold picture. There's really nothing after it that gets to quite this level.
So, hot take, Batman and Robin is Arnold's last great film. Sorry, no. But honestly, in the normal talking of you and I, and I'm in complete agreement that for me, this is the kind of not the pinnacle is not the right word to say, but like you said, this is the end note of his kind of all the pieces were put together to just kind of have this absolutely fantastic spy thriller action film that got put together. And I literally wrote down and I said, I love Arnold as a spy when I was doing this. I was just like, why couldn't we just have a bunch more of these as he aged? This really felt great because there was definitely still a lot of action. There was still a lot of killing. Body count was 90, by the way, in this film. So, which is a good amount, but I really liked kind of seeing some of the different sides of it. And I know James Cameron, I was reading about it, that James Cameron was talking about that he wanted to do a film kind of what if James Bond had a family? That's kind of where this sprung from. And I really like it. I thought it was a lot of fun. Obviously, you lose a little bit of the interest if you try to do a sequel, because obviously the dynamic drastically changes because Jamie Lee Curtis already knows. So you lose a little bit of that. Because I think a lot of the fun was to do these crazy stuff, but yet try to still hide it from your family, So this held up for me. I watched it. Laura and I both sat down, watched it, and just loved it. I was like, this is definitely a well put together film. And I've got to say, coming off of The Running Man, this one absolutely held up. And much like you, I enjoyed it, I think, even more than I remember enjoying it. And there's just so much to it. There's a lot of crazy stuff that happens that's just completely would not fly in, the more modern action films. They're a little more down to earth in regards. This still has a little bit of that 80s flair of just crazy things happen. Like a motorcycle flying through the air into a pool. That's kind of where I was I checked out. I was like, that was rough. That was, but that didn't hold up.
I do love the setup. And this is coming off the heels of Last Action Hero, which came out the year before. Yeah. So I do distinctly recall the first time I watched this movie where the terrorist makes it across miraculously into the pool, and then Arnold takes that horse and like gallops it at full speed, and I'm like, I'm coming off the heels of Last Action Hero. I'm like, no way, are they really gonna do this? And then in a wonderful twist, no, absolutely not. Horse freaks, he flips over. Wonderful scene of him trying to get that thing to back up. But yeah, it does jump the shark there, and then it I love that the terrorist gets his due, but it's straight out of like Wile E. Coyote, the Roadrunner, for him to be hanging off that missile and get fired through the building and then into the helicopter full of terrorists. It's hilarious. Tonally, it doesn't really fit very well. Because honestly, the rest of that Harrier sequence has aged really rather well.
Yeah.
And you can tell they built like a full-size mock-up of the Harrier
to use it when they're on.
And had it on a gimbal and shot from some pretty creative angles. Because I was rewatching, was like, man, what all went into this? And there's quite a bit. And there is some real Harrier footage, obviously, with the two of them flying. But everything in that final act is Arnold inside of a big full-size mock-up on a gimbal. And then there's some green screen that didn't quite age out as well. But when they're actually on the full mock-up, it still looks really good.
Well, and they had Marine pilots that they basically got on loan that were flying the Harriers in the real shots. And James Cameron basically just kept going, like, I think it was like flying by the helicopter or something. And he was like, they would shoot it and they were at distance that they're supposed to be at. And he's like, can you get any closer? And they're not really supposed to go that close, apparently. And they were like, yeah, sure. And so they did it again. And Cameron still didn't like it. So he went up to them. They're like, can you even get a little bit more close? And they were like, absolutely. And then that's what the take is that third shot of them just like breaking all the SOPs of flying that close.
Well, I think Cameron breaks standard operating procedure with helicopters in this movie and in Terminator 2, because I'm watching sequences going, wait, that's a real helicopter, and it's really like 15 feet off the deck. My favorite shot is when Jamie Lee Curtis's character's in the top of the limousine and the car goes over. So it is a stunt woman initially doing that comes out of the limo as the limo goes off the edge of but after that, that's really Jamie Lee hanging.
Oh, wow.
She's secured.
Yeah, obviously.
She's secured with a rig, but she really agreed to do it. And I don't think you could get an insurer on the planet now to like write the policy outside of Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
To agree to do that. But yeah, you talk about effects work. It's mostly holds up. I do love the model work on the bridge, and I can tell they're models. Like when the trucks, when that part of the bridge blows up and the trucks, there is one truck that goes down. It's the funny scene where the Pelican lands on the end and
actually falls. Yeah.
That is actually a real vehicle they rigged to explode. But the big sequence where the bridge gets blown is models. It's scale model work. I remember seeing the behind the scenes on that, and it's the water, man. They can't make the water look, you can't shrink it down. It doesn't
act the same. I mean, it's the same thing with Lord of the Rings, where they made the model and then did the flooding of it. And just, you could just tell it's a smaller body of water that's a model. Like everything else looks great. It's just, that's not how large moving water works. Other than that, and also for the fact that one thing that also took me out was when the terrorists decide to set the bomb for 90 minutes, put it in a little thing, then cover it with cement, and then decide to pack up the base and leave. Not like, okay, now we put it in there for 90 minutes. Let's go. It's like, start loading up trucks, boys. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
90 minutes is barely enough.
Right before that, with my career in video production, the guy with the camcorder and the battery running down is as funny, if not funnier than it ever was before, because I've been in those moments before where now we don't hesitate to you don't put yourself in that position professionally. Like you swap batteries out long before they start flashing the the symbol on the camera, but I love that scene. And he's repeating himself.
There's a lot of fun. There's a lot of crazy. There's just a lot of good in this. Though I do have to say one thing. So when Arnold finds out his wife is cheating, or thinks his wife is cheating on him, and he gets all sad, Arnold cannot look dejected at all. It was it was absolutely terrible. Like he's like, he kind of sits there and you're just like, are you, do you need to use the bathroom? Are you having a little indigestion? Like what's going on there, Arnold? Like you don't look too good.
And it seems like Cameron knows this because he tries to put him, there's physicality in that scene to try to help the performance with him walking in front of a bus that's like coming at him. But I adore Tom Arnold in this film. Like he steals every scene he's in. Like Bill Paxton turns in a tremendous performance too, and we'll get to him, but it's heavily dependent on Tom Arnold's comedic timing. And Tom Arnold almost turns in like a very Vince Vaughn-esque kind of performance in this movie, with this character just talks incessantly and just will not stop talking. But yeah, that luckily they flip from that scene of dejectedness to like Tom Arnold just like, hey, welcome to the club, buddy. Like
I forgot.
Yeah. He's like, what? You remember my second wife? Like
when they're doing the interrogation scene with Jamie Lee Curtis and he keeps trying to jump in. I'm like, there's a little bit of repressed anger that you have there, Tom. You know, like I feel like especially I'm sure it's great because I think he was still going through his breakup with Roseanne at this time, because I know he had trouble almost not getting this part because of Roseanne.
Oh, really?
Being on that show and all the other stuff that was kind of in the news. But
well, what's funny is the character being married a bunch of times is like true to life.
Yeah.
Like
it was cathartic for him. He was able to get it out.
It wasn't then. Roseanne was his first marriage, and 1994. But he's been married 3 times since then. So like he's just living his True Lies character.
He's also probably working for the Omega sector or whatever that is.
Yeah. And you got to love the Heston cameo.
Oh my goodness.
With the eye patch.
With the eye patch. Because I mean, what, they're trying to make him Nick Fury? Like, come on, man. Come on.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, basically. But
yeah,
I would never have guessed that Heston would have done this. And I'm still surprised this day he did, because, you know, obviously it's a cameo piece almost at best. And
it's like, it looks like a day of shooting.
Yeah. Day of shooting. They probably paid him a good amount of money to do it, though.
He's basically retired by that point.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you in 94, it was kind of scary. They were talking about the fact when, like, Tom Arnold, when they were talking about bugging the phones, he's like, yeah, we bug everybody's phone everywhere. And I was like, all right. A little NSA before it was cool, huh? A little wiretaps everywhere on everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
James Cameron called it.
He's like, we can't do that. He's like, you're totally BSing me. We do this like 30 times a day.
Yeah. James Cameron, seeing the future. Oh.
No, it's interesting because watching it back was really fascinating to me, because I always just view it as, you know, this action comedy, which it is, don't get me wrong. But the first three-fourths of the movie up until the final act, it's an action film, but it's really disguising a movie about fidelity and like, and repairing a damaged marriage. And it's so wonderfully done.
Works.
Like, it absolutely works. Jamie Lee Curtis is so damn good in this film. It frustrates me that she didn't get to really like flex her acting chops until so much later. She was just looked over. She was always viewed as, you know, the scream queen.
Yeah.
With the Halloween films. But man, that performance she gives in the interrogation room is phenomenal. Dynamite. Absolute dynamite. Like, and it's so well done anyway. You've got really unique camera angles of her with shots of her in the room, but then shots of her from their perspective and then on camera, like on monitor. And the way it's cut together is really nice. That is like the fulcrum kind of point of the movie that it all pivots on. And then obviously the scene following it in the hotel is just classic. Like,
Yeah.
it is an amazing blend of sexy, funny. When she falls, I still laugh so hard when she falls really quick. And then he goes to get up and then she's back up.
Yep. Quick as money. So there's a fun story about that I was reading. It talked about the fact that fall was planned with Cameron and Jamie Lee, but they didn't tell Arnold at all. And so it's not an accidental fall. Like it was a planned fall, but she falls and then she gets right back up. But that's why you see Arnold get up real quick, because he's like, oh my goodness, she fell. Like, I need to help her. And then kind of like, no, let's not break the scene. Let's go back down. So the whole thing
perfect.
was
The fact that Cameron had to have been giddy about that. That's just one of those like real innocuous things that just sells the scene.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
well, and then they shot it a second time, and Arnold doesn't react like that at all. Like, and so they're like, we have to use this. Like, this is absolutely perfect to see him kind of that quick reaction, and then luckily he didn't break it and came back down. So
no, she's perfect in the role to go from, they do her up in these terrible clothing and the glasses, like it's perfect. And then her transformation into this, bombshell that she's always been, the Hollywood bombshell. But it's so well done, but they give her character such like humanity, and I really like her arc.
Well, and I also like that they made it realistic of why she's unhappy, of why they just they didn't really make either of them terrible people. Arnold was not sleeping around with a bunch of women. He was faithful to his wife. He was gone on jobs and couldn't tell her probably. And so she's kind of unfulfilled, but is not really trying to branch out. Like, it's a weird dichotomy of this kind of relationship with Simon that she has of wanting to help him out. But then obviously before she even knows that he's fake or all that, she's kicking him off. So it's this nice kind of balance of showing that even though they're unhappy, they're still kind of faithful to each other. Yeah,
they are. And that's a crucial point in this film, that the fact that they were distant and the marriage was like fractured, but it wasn't irrevocably broken.
Yeah.
Because they hadn't actually cheated on one another, at least. Yeah. Cause you're right. It's not like there's any sort of outside influence that gets her to kick Simon off of her. She's just like, no, this is way beyond anything that I'm going to agree to. Yeah. Which brings me to Paxton. Man, I miss that guy. Like, it kills me that we lost him so suddenly. And I mean, his ability to chameleon his way into so many like memorable roles. And this is just another one of many of him elevate. And he elevated everything he was ever in. Like, it just,
from the bit role that he had in Terminator, that like 10 second, 15 second screen time that he has, like, super memorable there.
Yep.
Like,
what Chet in Weird Science.
That's right.
One of the most despicable characters in all of cinema.
He plays that so well, though. That's the problem. And everything I've read is that he was super nice. I haven't read anything that he was actually terrible. He just did such a great job of, even his character in Twisters was a little slimy in a lot of ways. I almost got that.
But you rooted for him in Twister.
Yeah, he was
ultimately
good.
You rooted for him.
Yeah, but there's moments I'm like, he kind of sold out. All right, buddy. But
did you ever see him in Frailty?
I did not. No, I did not see Frailty.
Yeah. All right. I think he directed that one.
Okay.
It's a good flick. But anyway, Simon is one piece of work. And I forgot completely that Simon was at the very, very end of the movie. Like, I completely had erased that from my mind. And so when he shows up again, trying to pull his con job, I was laughing quite hard. I was like, oh yeah, he's going to get his comeuppance again. So
yes, it was definitely cathartic when you go into Arnold's daydream state where he basically punches him and kills him. And it was like that hard cut
Yeah, just
It threw me the first time. I was like, what just happened?
Punch kill too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Done.
It reminded me, that daydream scene reminded me of when in High Fidelity, when they kill Tim Robbins. When he comes in the record store and they smash him. It was the same kind of thing. It was like, wait.
This is what I wish I was doing. When I'm
that's what I wish I was doing. Yeah. And the edit's so good. They cut right back into Paxton laughing.
Yeah.
And
it's time because his head went back, and then all of a sudden his head, and then when the cut, his head's coming forward. So my first time watching him, like, wait, what just happened? And then it took me a second to process, going, oh, that was a daydream. It was done really well. It
really was. Yeah. Underrated, I think, in its comedy, frankly. I think it's viewed as mostly just another Arnold action vehicle. And
there's so much more though.
I think this is my favorite action comedy that he did. And he did several. I mean, it's, Kindergarten Cop fits that bill to a certain extent. Certainly Last Action Hero is probably a close second. But something where the comedy was more than just him delivering one-liners. Yeah, which he does a few in this too. Like,
that's his trademark. I mean, that's kind of what he does.
They don't overdo it in this movie.
I didn't walk away like Running Man felt like, okay, let's just throw in every Arnold one-liner that's ever been in any movie that needed to be hit. But
now you talked about him not really pulling off the dejected. And I agree with that. But having just discussed The Running Man, which was 87, and I don't think the director got a particularly great performance out of him in that movie, because I look at him compared to that in like Predator, and McTiernan got a much better performance from him in Predator.
Yeah.
But like I can tell that the guy's grown quite a bit as an actor in the 7-year window from 87 to this. Like I can tell there's stuff that you're just not going to want to ask him to do, but there's definitely growth there as far as like just a standard actor.
Yeah.
And I always thought Cameron gets the best out of this guy. I think he knows how to utilize him better than anybody else.
Knows his strength. Kind of like what you said, he knew how to put things around him to help him with some of the tougher stuff that Arnold wasn't the best at as well. I mean, we get the same thing with Terminator, and how he kind of pulled that out of Arnold in a lot of ways, and used kind of not his weaknesses, but used his character to kind of really make those, both Terminator 1 and Terminator 2, make those stunning performances. Yeah. And vastly different. But but I digress, because we're going to talk about those at a later time.
So can I must confess that I had quite the crush as a young man on with Tia Carrere, going all the way back to Wayne's World.
Of course.
And that did not change for this movie. And she's great. She's great. And that's where this movie really feels like a Bond film, is Jamie Lee Curtis, once she's knows the score, has been kidnapped with Arnold, and you have Juno, played great by Tia, and they go at it. It really, a lot of this first 3/4 of the movie just continues to feel like a James Bond film, and she feels like a Bond girl.
Yeah.
But this feels like a way more fun. Like, she gets so much more to do in this than most actresses get to do in a Bond film.
Yeah.
The Daniel Craig films notwithstanding, because I feel like women in those films were given like much more fleshed out roles. But in this era, she gets to do way more as that character than like the women in the Pierce Brosnan, Bond movies. So
yeah, I think GoldenEye is the only one that I can think of that had at least a female villain who was, kind of not go toe to toe.
Was that like Natalia Onatopp or something?
Yeah, something like
that. Famke Janssen, yeah.
Yeah.
She wasn't really given that much to do.
No, she wasn't, but she was at least dangerous. But at least Juno had some, background of why she was teaming up with terrorists. And
this reminds me, there were rumors that they were looking at making a sequel to this. And it wasn't like right after this. So it wasn't even in the 90s. It would have been like, I think in the early 2000s, they were considering it, because Eliza, that plays Dana, the daughter, her career took off, especially in television.
Yep.
And they really were thinking of bringing the crew back and including Dana in the spying, basically, which might have been interesting, but I think you're right. I think when you lose this whole dynamic, which 2/3 of the movie is
about, I mean, because the movie's not really about being a spy. It's the family relationship surrounding being a spy and kind of how the fallout from it. So you take that away.
By the way, I want to know how much this film influenced Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Oh,
because that just feels like an extension of the concept, right?
Yeah. Well, and they did, I mean, technically they didn't, it's not a sequel, but they did do a TV series on Netflix called Fubar, which is where Arnold and his daughter are both spies for the same organization. And
that thing's garbage. I couldn't even get through it. I couldn't get through it.
No, I don't blame you. I did.
Yeah, I tried. I tried to watch it. It was awful.
Yeah, it was not good. It was not good. I did push myself through it, but I was like, this is not great.
No.
But going back, I'm surprised they didn't push this as a sequel because the thing made almost $400 million worldwide.
I just think, I mean, after this is done, Cameron starts to gear up for Titanic.
That's right.
I mean, and
Arnold doesn't have a role in Titanic, like unless you give him the iceberg ahead.
Oh gosh, I'm the king of the world.
Sorry.
Yeah,
very different movie.
By the way, I think I've already seen that with these deepfake AIs. I'm pretty sure I saw a clip where they had put Arnold's face properly in Titanic. I'm almost positive I've seen this. Yeah. Cameron, he likes to, dabble in these genres, but then he's always got something bigger kind of around the corner.
Yeah. So, and I think some of it too is, I mean, he wrote the screenplay for this, did a lot, it's based off of someone else's screenplay, but I think he finalized it, his version. And, it may have just been, he felt like he told his story or he was done or like let someone else pick it up. I mean, he was perfectly fine doing that with many of the other movies he's done where he'll do the original or a sequel and then, hey, let's go off and someone else playing that.
I'm good with this being a standalone. I don't have any desire to see them back together again.
And you and I've already talked about this. I don't even know if I've talked about this on the podcast at all, but I'm very much of the idea that sequels, well, I think we talked about it with Matrix. Sequels can ruin the original film or an original series or something along those lines. Where
they ruin the perceived prestige of the IP.
Yes.
They don't necessarily hurt the original, but they definitely damage the IP, and then the whole collective is not viewed in the same. Mm-hmm.
Like when you have an amazing movie like The Matrix, and then you make Revolutions and Reloaded.
And I agree with that. But by the same token, The Matrix felt like a movie where I was like totally game to see a follow up. I remember coming. I mean, obviously they ended it loose ended, but I wanted a follow up to it, even though it didn't deliver what I wanted. This movie is got a nice, neat little bow.
Yeah.
My imagination can run wild with the adventures that, Harry and Helen Tasker have as Boris and Doris. His code name will be Boris, and yours will be Natasha? Doris.
It's just those little moments that just make it, that especially are funnier now as an adult than when I was a kid. Like obviously I enjoyed that, and I grew up with my dad watching Rocky and Bullwinkle. He loved that show. And so I knew Boris and Natasha, but even now some of these quick-witted things just hit a lot better. Like you were saying, than when I was a child when I was a kid.
Absolutely.
Though I don't know if I saw this when it came out. It was definitely, I did not see this in the theater. I can tell you that.
No,
I
probably
saw this a couple years later, maybe like high school, like probably like 96, 97.
Yeah. And I think that's when I was able to watch it too. But I do remember my parents that this was a date night movie for them because they both came back and my dad was like, oh, it's fantastic. And my mom surprisingly was like, oh, it was so good. Like she got a kick out of Jamie Lee Curtis's, character.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was totally like a date night movie. And I saw it probably, I don't know, a year or two later, probably 2 years later, something like that. Yeah. I definitely didn't see it in theaters. I was kind of evaluating some of the cinematography and especially the lighting in this movie. Mm-hmm. And it does the same thing that a lot of these Cameron movies do from this era, which is this steely blue lighting scheme that he pulls in as many scenes as he can. And he did it, especially at the beginning, even in the interiors when Arnold's like up at the top of the building.
Yep.
Inside, he gets back inside and the room's like this steely blue. It's not real artificial looking. But it's very cool. And then it's offset by like the fireplace going. So you have this kind of golden blue color scheme running. And the movie is full of this. And he used it in Terminator 2. It even shows up in certain scenes, especially near the end of Titanic. Less so with the Avatar movies because they're digitally created, don't really utilize as much of this. And it's Cameron lighting this. Like Cameron creates a lot of his own lighting setups, or at least used to. He did it. He lit part of the set on T2. I know for a fact he did that. Like he comes up with some of this stuff. Guy's exceedingly gifted in a lot of other areas besides directing. I wouldn't put him in the same level of cinematographer as like Soderbergh, but he knows how to light a set. And I love the look. I watched it on Hulu.
Yeah, that's what we did too.
The transfer was great.
Yeah.
The picture was really good.
Yeah. We thought the same thing too. And it was enjoyable. I didn't have any problems with it. I mean, I think I only own this on DVD, so hence why we kind of went with streaming it.
That shot when Arnold dives off the dock, or his stunt double does, that shot's really cool with the explosion, but the shot under the water pointing back up under Arnold with the iconic stuff. Like I was like, I know I've seen that shot used again after this movie.
Yep.
I can't remember what it was. Yeah. I don't know if this is the first to do it or not, but to me, this is this is probably the best. That underneath Arnold as he's swimming and the flames erupt up over him.
Yeah.
Awesome stuff.
There's just so much that's done right with this film. Absolutely. I mean, and the couple of one-liners, or not even one-liners, just quips, are different enough where, like right at the beginning when he's starting to walk out and the guard asks him, can I see your invitation? And he's just like, sure, here's my invitation. And then he blows the stuff up. I'm like, that's great. That's perfect. That's like a great one-liner, but hasn't been done before, but feels so Arnold anyways. Oh, there's the script is brilliant because there's little setup lines that you think are in like a serious conversation and that go funny. Yeah.
Like, the real mousy guy that's like there that works with Tom Arnold.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, they call him the sand spider. And Heston's like, why? And he's like, probably because it sounds scary. I was like, I'd forgotten all about that line. So I was like baited into it. I'm like, oh, wait, there's got to be some cool explanation for why they call him the sand spider. I was like, nope. Man, this movie just got me again. Like I fell for it.
No, I mean, yeah, it's just those little things because even when he's talking to Tom Arnold, when he's starting to walk out at the beginning in the Swiss thing, he's just like, how are you going to get out? What's your exit strategy? And he's just like, I'm just going to walk out the front gate. He goes, ballsy. Stupid, but ballsy.
Their interplay is so good. It's so good.
I just want to see more of them together. Or I did, obviously. Yeah.
Okay, so that would be you're right. That's what I would want. That dynamic is so funny. That would be my only argument for greenlighting a follow-up to this would be more of the two of them on camera.
Yeah. Well, apparently like they didn't know each other very well and they became the bestest of friends after this movie. Like they just hung out all the time together.
Yeah. The only thing when I watch it, I'm just like, Tom Arnold's like not huge, but like I'm like, there's no way this guy meets the standards of like some Omega group or whatever they are.
That's why he sits in the van,
around.
Ben.
Yeah.
You still
but not
serve
at the end.
by.
He's like, I'm done. You guys are sitting in the van next time.
No, you can't handle it, Tom.
Oh, his lines are so good. Him talking about his second wife leaving him and taking the ice cube trays.
Well, apparently that's actually what Roseanne did. That's actually what happened.
Really?
So yeah.
Oh.
So it was. So he was telling James Cameron this, or somebody, and like they were like, "No, use that. Like we're gonna change the script. Use that. Add that in."
Oh, that's brilliant. So that's
so
inspired by true events. Oh my goodness.
Oh man.
Oh wow.
I do really enjoy this film. This is. I don't remember exactly where I rated this. I think it was in my top 5, I believe. But I just got to say, like, if I got to rethink that if it's not in my top 5, it is not. I have it number 7. You have in your top 5. Oof. I may have to. Oh my goodness. There's so many good ones. And I'm looking at this now. I'm going to have to jump this up, I think.
I had a hard time watching it again because, our next episode is Total Recall.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't feel real strong one way or the other on the positioning of the two movies. I gave Total Recall the nod, but I don't know. I'm kind of feeling you. Like I've got it at 5, but I don't know. It probably deserves to be a little higher.
Yeah. I've got this in 7 behind Last Action Hero, which I love. I know you and I disagree highly about that movie. And I really do enjoy Last Action Hero, but man, I need to rewatch Last Action Hero and just depends.
It depends what you're wanting. Because they are both action comedies, but the one is
very tongue-in-cheek.
Well, one's effectively a parody and the other's not. So,
well, and in one of those things where I put it up there, I know because I was able to watch Last Action Hero as a kid when it came out. And so I watched it a ton, kind of like watching Kindergarten Cops and Twins a lot. Like those are ones that were Arnold films that I was allowed to watch growing up, and not really Terminator or Predator or Commando or a bunch of these others. So, but man, I got to tell you, True Lies was so much fun to watch again. It was, I always kind of had it like, I really liked it. I thought it was done really well, but this just goes to show you why Cameron gets the money he does to do, and why he has some of the most box office grossing films, the highest box office grossing films, is because he knows how to create a movie that's interesting. He knows how to write great dialogue, build characters, and then wrap it all up in a package that is a little more complex than what you really think about. Like there's so much more going under the surface than just, you know, this.
Before we sign off, I don't want to talk at length about it, but the action in this has held up really, really well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Any of the gunplay or the opening with the snowmobiles, which they feel like just something straight out of a Bond.
Mm-hmm.
Cameron's probably, I'm thinking maybe my second favorite action director behind McTiernan.
Oh,
so
wow, that's bold.
He didn't do that many of these things, but like Terminator 2, this, like
Aliens.
I mean, when Cameron wants to do action, he does it as good as anybody. If anybody could revive that genre, it would probably still be Cameron. But I don't think, I mean, he's going to be making Avatar movies until he's dead. So we're not going to get any more like conventional action films out of him.
No.
So
I did not know this was a thing, but I literally just was looking up James Cameron, and they did a True Lies TV series in 2023.
Oh,
it is not on Prime. It does not have a good rating.
That doesn't surprise me.
No.
He probably just signed his name off to it, but had very little involvement. Yeah.
Yeah, because he didn't direct it. It was just series writing credits. And just based on the film. So he didn't actually write it. I don't think he was really a part of it. It was just more of maybe like executive directed and all that fun stuff. Anyways, sorry. But Cameron does action so well. And I think a lot of it too is because he does layer so much more than just action. And most of those films, like I said, it's got a little more complex than just a straight like Commando,
he would never let a script go to start shooting that didn't have like some dialogue complexity and interesting people in it and stuff. So, well,
all right. Well,
I think
I got nothing.
Yeah, me neither. Everybody go watch True Lies. Such a good time.
It is.
It's 2 hours, like 20 minutes, 21 minutes. Doesn't feel it.
No.
You know,
it runs
moves quick. Funnier than you probably remember is kind of, I think, kind of a consensus here. Visually has aged pretty well. I mean, you're talking about a movie that's 30 years old. So there's not any, I couldn't really tell any like CGI in it. There might be some stuff they cleaned up a little bit, but I couldn't really tell anything was like computer rendered.
I think the shot of the missile going through the building at the end to the
almost looks stop motion to me, but
maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't really pay that much attention to that. I was just kind of like, all right, at that point I was like, I'm along for the ride. I'm enjoying myself.
So is he apparently. All right, everybody. We are going to sign off, and the next episode in the rotation as we do this mini season of Schwarzenegger will be Total Recall.
Total Recall.
Stay tuned for that.
Recall.
Good times. We will catch you next week with that one, and we'll sign off.
Thanks, everybody.